without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Ashley Feasley, who is the Director of Policy at the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops.
Thank you very much for having me here tonight and for coming in the rain. My name is Ashley, and I work at the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops in the Migration and Refugee Services Office. A lot of people don't know, but the Migration and Refugee Services Office is the largest office within the Bishops' Conference, and it's the only direct service component. We provide services for refugees, unaccompanied children, and then human trafficking victims. And we do it through our Catholic Charities network, including Arlington, who's a proud partner with us. It is through this work, as well as the Catholic social doctrine and principles on migration, that we work on policy positions with the federal government. We work with mostly Congress and the administration in furthering those policies. And the policies, again, reflect care and concern for the populations that we provide direct service for throughout the country, and also representing the bishops' migration issues. So Father did a wonderful job talking about the Catholic social teaching and principles of the larger picture. I'm going to drill down real quick to talk about some of our migration principles, which kind of frame our work every day. But very quickly, before I do that, I'm going to ask everyone, who here knows about the Justice for Immigrants Coalition? Oh, I have my work cut out for me here. So the Justice for Immigrants Coalition is the Bishop's public education and advocacy campaign. It's the first of its kind. It was introduced in 2003. It's involved in almost every diocese and many parishes around the country. We have about a mailing list of about 85,000 people, and active membership, I would say, of about 3,000 people around the country who go to meetings, participate in things on a weekly basis. I really urge you to hop on the JFI website. It's www.justiceforimmigrants.org. We provide materials on a regular basis. We do national calls, and we do webinars, and it's a range of materials on migration. It may not be a policy issue. We're doing a series on Catholic social teaching and migration. We've done some things about community engagement, welcoming immigrants and refugees, and it is a helpful place to find information about what we do in this area. And there are some great stories that we actually have about people who have been served through the Catholic network on this issue. So that's my pitch for JFI. I really hope you go and sign up. It would be great, I think, to have everybody kind of participate to the degree they can. So some of our work, as I mentioned, is framed by the Catholic social teaching principles on migration. And there's three really core principles that I'd like to talk about today. One is this idea of everybody has the right to be free of persecution and seek a decent, well-being life for themselves and their family. We describe this one basically as the right to migrate, the right that you have the ability, if you are in a situation where you cannot escape a terrible situation, you cannot provide for your family, you have the right to migrate. But equally important, and a counterbalance, is everyone has the right to stay where they are in their country of origin or where they are in this moment, and try and achieve that goal too, of having a decent life and decent work and opportunity for themselves and their families. And that we call for short term the right not to migrate. And the other two principles that I think are really important when we think about this discussion is the bishops and Catholic social doctrine recognize the right of nations to control their borders. They recognize the right of nations to control their borders. But that right comes with a responsibility. And that responsibility is to ensure that laws are just and humanely implemented, that they respect the right of the U.S. taxpayer. They also respect the right and human decency and dignity of individuals. And so, these are some of the principles that we work with, The last I will say to you is refugees and asylum seekers, people who are fleeing persecution, have the right to access due process and protection. It's part of who we are as a country, but also recognizing vulnerabilities. So these are the principles that we try to implement when we look at pieces of legislation or policy advancement with Congress and with the Hill. I would say to you that there have been a number of changes on the policy level that have impacted actually your community or will be impacting your community that really are in conflict with some of those principles. The first I'm going to mention is DACA. How many people here know what DACA is? Okay. So we have approximately 700,000 to 800,000 young people who applied for a program that was initiated in 2012 under President Obama. It is a program where these individuals pay every 2 years. They move forward with a security vetting process, and they're allowed to get a work authorization and continue living here even though they've been here undocumented. DACA is not a program that ever provides someone with a path to citizenship. That means that these individuals, they're here on a temporary basis based on that DACA, that deferred action that the government has issued. Now, everybody raised their hand about DACA. Who knows a DACA recipient actually face to face? Okay. So many of you who raised your hand know that this is a really exceptional group of people. They're young people, they were brought here by their parents, and they really do look to contribute. Obviously, I think the issue of canceling DACA, the attempt by the administration, was very troubling, I think, for the bishops for a number of reasons, and it is something that we work on. One, I would say this idea of again, right to opportunity and right to be able to try and live a decent life. These were young people who were being stymied very much in the sense that they couldn't go to college, or they couldn't get a driver's license, or they couldn't work legally, which is all things that we want young people to be able to do, right? Have the chance to access educational opportunity, have the chance to drive legally with insurance, and have the chance also to work in a legal way. I think the other thing that, the politics of DACA aside, for the bishops and many of these policies, they spend time with DACA recipients in their community. And they, had DACA recipients who came up to them and said, this program has changed my life. This is something that's important to us. So, the DACA program, we remain committed to being supportive of ensuring that these young people have the chance to stay here and contribute. But I will say that it's important to understand that DACA itself is no fix. We do need Congress to act on this, and we need Congress to act on a number of things, including the next topic I'm going to bring up, which is temporary protected status. Who here knows what temporary protected status is? Okay. TPS, for those of you that don't know, is a program that was initiated under President Bush in 1989 with bipartisan support that allowed people, it's a law that Congress passed that allows people who are from countries who have extreme either armed conflict or natural disasters stay here in a temporary status. It provided that they check in with the government about every 18 months. They pay a fee, they do a security check, and they also get work authorization. This, with the new administration, we've seen a cut to the temporary protected status issue. Now, what does that mean? Who are TPS recipients? Well, you are in a community with a number of TPS recipients. You have one of the top 50 congressional districts with TPS recipients from El Salvador. You may not even know that they are in your community because they have been here for so long. The Salvadoran TPS recipients, they started living here in 2001 to be able to be eligible for the program. Many people, I think, I don't know if you know, but the Salvadoran bishops came and actually were invited to speak with Bishop Burbidge at the cathedral. Did anybody go to that? Okay. So they came, and the bishops themselves answered questions about this program. And there were questions about what happens now that this program has been canceled. What are we going to do about this issue? I face a lot of lawmakers that say, well, this was a temporary program and people shouldn't live their lives here. But I would like to say and give an example of somebody who we met when we worked on this issue and the bishops came. It's a woman who comes from St. Camilla's Parish in Silver Spring. Her name is Flor. She's lived here since 2002, and she has 4 U.S. citizen children. She's a TPS recipient. She's a school aide. She works here legally because she has TPS, and she teaches catechesis at St. Camilla's. Flor is facing a decision of whether she should return to El Salvador when her TPS ends, which is in September of 2020, or 2019, or whether she should face family separation because she wants to be in compliance with our immigration laws, but the way that we have ended the program, she has no remedy to ensure that her family can stay together. So this is the type of change that when we talk about policies abstractly, and we talk about, this administration or this Congress or that president, we need to always remember the human consequences of this work. And so, it's our work, it's our job, I think, frankly, to articulate those policies, remind lawmakers about those principles, and engage on those issues. I would say that I'm really hopeful as we have a discussion and kind of as we move forward that you think about kind of your own encounter. It may not be speaking to a lawmaker. It may be learning more about TPS recipients in your community. It may be understanding and learning more in your parish about other immigrants and refugees that live here. But it is a call and I think a moment. We as Catholics have a responsibility to learn more. Pope Francis calls us to encounter others, but also to accompany those who are in pain, regardless of because of their immigration status or some other thing. So I'm really hopeful that you will check out JFI, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.